Okay, I do the intro live so people get a second to get adjusted. And are you ready to go?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, hi, you're listening to Service from Hell, a podcast featuring people that are currently in customer service positions or the lucky few that got out and all of the good, bad, and infinitely irritating things that go along with that work. I'm actor and comic Kate Gaffney, and I'm uniquely qualified to discuss this as I used to work at a very busy and very popular comedy club in Los Angeles, and at least one of you listening right now has probably grabbed me and told me you were ready to order when I was running around like a crazy person. So let's eat. I'd like to welcome our guest, Liz. How am I going to not fuck up Zagone? Kate, get it there again. Good God, we'll get there. I'd like to welcome our Kate. This is the whole. We're never going to get to the questions. It's just this. I would like to welcome our guest, Liz Zagone. She is a comedian and a Chicago native who co-produces the monthly service industry storytelling show Bitch and Purge. She's also a writer and owner of an adorable puppy named Tuna, who is seated to my left. So if you hear a little bit of doggy paws, but she's sleeping right now like the cute, good dog she is. But if you hear doggy paws, be glad that you're hearing them because dogs are amazing. I better know Liz from the open mic circuit out in LA and being on the mic that she co-produces and co-runs called Hoopla Comedy. So, Liz, what made you want to get into comedy? Why did you move to Los Angeles? How did you name your adorable puppy Tuna? Tell us all of the things.
Well, I'll start with the easiest, Tuna. I was living with my friend Sam in Chicago. We decided to foster a dog, and Tuna came to us with the name Potpourri, which is such a silly name. And my friend who runs the shelter or the rescue came by and was like, okay, here you go. And Sam was like, what's her name? Petunia? And she goes, oh, that's cuter. We'll name her Petunia. And then we just shortened it to Tuna. And she's my little tuna bean.
And she's a foster fail, that's just what that happens.
Yeah, everyone called it. They were like, you love this dog. You're going to keep her. And I was like, no, I like fostering. I like giving a dog back. I like helping them find their forever homes. And then there was a family that wanted to meet her. And I was like, no, she's mine.
Oh, I love that. And you had fostered prior to Tuna.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow. And you were able to do it.
Yeah.
And no problem.
Especially puppies. Like, I'm like, you've peed on all my stuff.
Yeah.
Get out.
That's very relatable.
Yeah.
Okay. And you are originally from Chicago. So what made you move out to LA? Because Chicago is a great city for comedy. Did you start comedy out there?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
In Chicago, yeah, it's still, I think, so much better for comedy than LA.
I don't disagree.
Yeah. The first year I lived in LA, I went home, I think, like twice in the first 5 months just to get the stage time, because I was like, oh, actually, I wasn't ready for this. I don't know what I'm doing. And I'd come home and do 20 shows in a week and be like, okay, this is a year's worth of LA stage time as a new comedian.
Can you explain to the audience what you mean by that? Like why that's true?
Yeah, there's just so much stage time in Chicago. There's also not super famous people in Chicago where, if you are at the Laugh Factory, it's a bunch of people you've probably never heard of, or, people's credits will be like, oh, they wrote on this one show. Maybe you've seen it, maybe you haven't, or they were on Chicago PD or things like that. Unless someone's in town, but in LA, it's like, oh, here's the most famous comedians you've ever heard of on every lineup at this major club. And you're like, oh, well, I'm a nobody, so I don't know if I'll get on this lineup. It's like, okay, now I got to get passed at a club competing with people who have millions of followers on social media, compared to in Chicago, you can hang out at shows and, go to the mics that the clubs run and do a lot and get that stage time. And everyone produces a show in Chicago, and it's every bar, restaurant has a night where they do comedy. For the most, it's what it feels like, you know. Even a bar that I worked at part-time, I started a mic there, and it's anyone can have stage time, And then out here, it's tough.
Do you think it's because of the competition with celebrity, or do you think that there's just less availability, or is it both? Or?
I think it's a combination. It feels like there's not as much stage time, and even people who are actors who do improv and don't necessarily do stand-up, they'll try it out. Or in this day and age, there's people on TikTok and social media people who are the Haktua girl is going on tour for something. It's I don't know if she's doing stand-up or what it is. I just saw people were upset about it. And that is unfortunately like the reality that you could, as long as you have a following, people will come see you. There's like YouTubers who, like, friend of a friend who has millions of people watch his videos on YouTube, and he's doing a tour. And it's like, what's he doing? I don't know, but people are going to pay to go see him. No one's paying to come see me, so
yeah, it's,
I don't know. I'm doing wrong.
it's so well. You're working too hard, apparently. Like all you have to do is make some terrible sexual reference that apparent with a funny accent, and then your life changed. I don't know. I don't know what the secret sauce is.
Yeah.
But I agree because they want to sell tickets, full stop. And I mean, I feel like the industry is more authentic in the way that it's being honest now. That it's like, oh, we don't give a shit about the talent side of things. We never have.
Yeah.
Can we sell? Can we make money? 'Cause
Yeah.
These are businesses, and that's like. How did you end up plugging in? Because you said you've only been in LA for 3 years.
Almost 3 years.
Almost 3. So what got you into where you're like, okay, I don't have to go home to actually get on stage?
Starting Bitch and Purge out in LA, because it's a Chicago-based show. It started years before I even got into stand-up. A friend, John Ledley, started it, and me and my friend Avery kind of kicked it off in LA, and that was nice to just like have the stage time, you know, be able to book people who then will book me on their shows, that kind of thing, the little trade-off. Hosting an open mic was huge because I feel like it just, people know who you are, it gets your face out there, gets your name out there. I take a lot of pride in the mic that I host.
It's a show. It's not a mic. It's a show.
It is. Yeah.
I did it twice and I was like, I'm going to kill myself. This is so scary and hard. Like, people are good. I'm like, you got to stop calling it a mic. Like,
it's very fun. And there's regular audience members that come, and it is better than most of the shows I've done in LA.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really fun and intimidating. And also, Lou, I don't know if you're going to listen to this, but Lou, he records everybody and then will give you your material for free. No, like
he does charge $10.
Good. He should.
Yeah.
He should.
Yeah.
But like, I mean,
that's a steal. A $10 clip for 4 minutes of like great light sound quality.
Yeah, people use what he gives them. It's a really good thing. So how did you and Uriah, because were you guys friends in the circuit and then you said, oh, we want to start something together, or was he already doing it?
No, he was already running the mic, and I contacted Mike Bridenstine, who's the GM at Lyric Hyperion, and I said, oh, if there's any nights that like need an open mic, I want to host a mic because I want that guaranteed stage time every week. And so he kind of set me up with Uriah and was like, well, he runs a mic, you can do it with him. And I don't know what it was like before because I'd never done it before I started hosting, but I took over hosting the first half of it, and it was just so fun. And it's just gotten better and better. And like, you know, we put out the list at the beginning. So we do like an 8:45, put your name in the bucket by 8:45. By 9 o'clock, you'll know if you're going up or not. So it's not like
that's different than when I did it. Oh, that's so nice.
We did play around with a few different like options, but I'm happy to sit through a mic if I know I'm going to go up.
Me too.
But sitting through a 2.5 hour mic when you don't know if you're going to get called is like, oh my, I could have been doing literally anything else.
Yeah. Or been at a different mic.
Yeah.
Especially on a Monday night. That's hard. Well, good. That's very fair. And do you guys do 5 for $5, or is it like?
We do 4 minutes for $5. Or no, it might be $4. I don't know. I don't pay for it because I'm the host. So I think it's 4 for 4.
It's actually $75 for a minute. Okay, that's great. And so that is on Mondays. That's out here. And so that sort of changed the trajectory of comedy for you.
I think so. Yeah.
Okay. Did you plug into, and we'll in the next section, we'll get into your actual jobs, but did you plug into customer service right away? Or did you come out with like a bit of savings and you're like, I'm going to hit the ground super hard with mics and comedy and not get a job at first?
I did not get a job at first. I looked for a job. Like I left Chicago, quit my bar job, and I was like, I'm never going to bartend again. And then got out here and I was like, oh, I need to bartend again. And honestly, the biggest thing, I lived with my sister at the time. She gave me an incredible deal and charged me my Chicago rent price when we lived together. So I was paying $850.
You bitch.
I know. And I still don't know how I like ran through all my savings because I was like, I'm literally paying nothing. Like I'm paying double that now. And it's,
it's LA, baby.
Yeah.
Just to exist is $1,000 a day. It's so expensive. So you were living there and you plugged in, and then but you're like, I have to get a bartending job. So how did you balance working with, because mics and all that stuff isn't, I mean, there's daytime mics, but God help us.
Those are, yeah, nobody needs those.
No thanks. I've done a couple. Yikes. But so how did you find where you're like, well, I've got to make money at night, and I'm also going to be performing at night? Like that, this is always the conundrum that I find with most comics. So what do you do?
I mean, I'm still not getting the stage time I want because I work 4 nights a week, and it's been my own like internal battle of like, okay, is this what you want to do? You haven't gotten a new job yet. You're still, I'm stuck in this, like, I love the job that I'm at. And there's times when I don't, and I'm like, I'm going to get out of here. I'm going to get out of here. But it's so easy. And I love the people that I work with. And I'm like, okay, I'll do another week. Okay, I'll do another month. Okay, it'd be stupid to walk away from my job right now. And one of my friends / coworkers, he became the bar manager in the last, I don't know, sometime in the last year. And he makes my schedule. And because this is, I think, the biggest difference between working in restaurants in Chicago versus LA is that in LA, everyone's got other things going on and everyone's trying to like work their craft and get famous and get discovered and like be in entertainment for the most part. Whereas in Chicago, it's like if you take a Friday night off, it's like, okay, you're not getting Friday nights for the next 2 months. And it's like,
ooh, they're punitive like that out there.
Some of the places I worked, yeah.
Grow up.
Yeah. And out here, it's, last minute I got booked on this show. Can anyone take my shift? And it's like, yeah, we'll make it work. Agree to do your show. And then, if people have to move around and
that's amazing,
come in early or whatever to cover you. Like everyone's so helpful at my current job that I'm like, why wouldn't I keep it?
Yeah.
And he'll schedule me to work Saturday, Sunday day shifts, which is like noon to 6. So that I can, if I have anything booked in the evenings, I can go do that.
That's lovely.
Which is really nice.
Yeah. So you have found the sort of, it doesn't exist for most people, but you have found this like perfect space where they at least acknowledge that you're doing, this is not the dream job. Yeah. So like you'll show up and you'll do your job, but if you have a show come up, you're able to take it.
Yeah. Which a lot of my coworkers, bartenders and servers, a lot of the bartenders are also actors or they do music. So it's like, they can audition during the day and then they come to work at night. And then for me, I'm like, oh, I need
nights.
Yeah.
Okay. So is where you currently work, it's in a busy area and it's, well, we'll get into this. Let me stop. Let's get, okay. So is there anything else like as far as your journey in comedy or like in Los Angeles that you're like, I wish I knew this before I moved my ass all the way out here? Like if you were talking to Liz 4 years ago, what would you tell her that you now know that you wish you had known?
I would say go out and visit and do shows and visit so people know who you are and make those connections before you move out here. And then you have to like live your life, get acclimated to a new space. For me, the biggest issue moving out here was honestly Tuna. She like had a really hard time.
Oh, she did.
Yeah, we're pretty codependent. We've worked through a lot of it with the help of there's a dog trainer I follow who has like a membership page who like will walk you through like any type of issue, and she's all about like structure and boundaries. And I'm like, oh my God, we have no structure or boundaries. No wonder she freaks out when I have to leave and go, do anything.
Yeah.
So that was a big learning curve for us. But we learned a lot from it, and now she's completely crate trained and she's doing great. We came a long way. She's taught me so much about myself.
I believe that. That's why we get this, what animals do.
Mm-hmm.
So you would tell younger Liz, hey, come out and visit, kind of get plugged in.
I would say make those connections, plant those seeds now. And then when you move out, especially moving in with my sister was such a lifesaver.
Yeah.
That's like, oh, I did not take advantage the best way I could have with that.
Sure.
Because now I'm living by myself with Tuna, and I'm like, okay, I can do this, I can do that. But if I get booked on a show in Santa Barbara, I either have to bring Tuna or plan for, dog care.
Yeah.
And it's just a lot to do by yourself compared to when I was living with my sister. And I was like, oh, you got nighttime potty? Okay, great. Thanks.
Yeah, sure. Ugh, it's a hard, I mean, they're worth it, but
totally.
So you would say, come out early, visit. So you didn't do that. Your sister was already out here and you were like, I'm about to go make it happen out there.
Yeah, I was actually dating a guy in Chicago, and we had broken up, but we were both on a show. He was a comedian.
Ooh.
Yeah. We were both on a show in like Wisconsin or something. So we had a decent drive where we were traveling, and we were coming back, and I had mentioned something about LA, and he was like, he's lived in like 9 different cities, and he's like, he's like, you need to move to LA. You keep talking about it, and if you don't go now, you're never going to go. And I was like, oh my God, am I going to move? Because I've never lived outside of like Chicago.
Oh, you haven't?
No, this is like my first
foray into life outside of Illinois. Wow.
I was like, oh my God, I'm like more than 30 minutes away from my parents. Like, what's that like? So
yeah, I mean, it's an adjustment. I mean, you have to mourn a lot of things when you come out here. And I think the hardest part for a lot of us, because you're from a city, so you didn't necessarily have this adjustment, was just that like the sense of community is really hard. I will say that in comedy, I have been able to find that. I don't know if you have as well, but that has been such a lifesaver as far as, you see the same faces over and over, and they, they recognize you and they want to talk to you. And it's like, oh, I felt this way with improv too, but then that all fell apart with, whatever. But yeah, I feel like that there's a sense of community, which makes it at least easier to navigate the city. Have you found that you've been able to make friendships and stuff in a way that you're like, oh, okay, this is easier to deal?
I have, but not the same way. Like in Chicago, I feel like I had like my comedy friends and they were better friends. Out here, it's like a little bit of like everyone's like looking out for themselves.
A little.
And because it is.
A little. That's on the family crest of Los Angeles. Do you first. Everybody else can fuck themselves.
Yeah, because everybody's like doing their own thing. It's so hard out here that people are just like, yeah, okay, good luck, And
I'm trying to figure it out too.
Yeah, and even friends outside of comedy, it's difficult to like make time to see people depending on where you live. Mm-hmm. I have friends who are in entertainment and friends who are not in entertainment, and they're like, let's go out on a Friday night. And I'm like, if I have a Friday night out or like off where I'm not working, I have to be getting on stage. I have to be doing comedy. I'm not, and I can't afford to like go out and spend money if I'm not either trying to
network or
be a comedian, or literally just make money.
Yeah, that's real.
Like
that's real.
And I feel like there's like, now I have this weird like resentment when I'm, and this goes hand in hand with like working in restaurants, where I'm just like, I get so bitter at like people who just go out on like every single night and they just like sit at the bar. There's regulars that come in 3 times a week, and I'm like, what are you doing with your time?
Yeah.
Like, I understand you work during the day, but like, if I had that kind of freedom and that kind of money to come and drink $20 cocktails, I would not come to this bar every 3 times a week.
I would go find another one, at least to just get a different 4 walls.
Yeah, I would. So there's like a bitter jealousy that's like, I wish I could just like have an evening where I could like go out and enjoy myself and like spend money. But it's like, I can't afford to. I feel guilty if I'm not doing comedy. And then it's like, also there's so many more things I want to do in life that's not like, because I've spent so much time working in restaurants and bars. I'm like, I don't want to be in a restaurant. I don't want to sit at a bar. Like,
yes.
I don't want to drink to get like, in my 20s, sure, I loved drinking, but now I'm like, I never want more than 2 drinks. I'm like, I want to go sit outside, like touch grass.
Touch grass. I was just thinking that. Yes. Yeah. Well, also because I think, at least this has been my experience, LA time passes so much faster here. I can't explain it, but I think the way that it was explained to me is like, well, it's Groundhog Day, because except for this past winter, it's the same temperature and sunshine basically every day. So you wake up and there's like, you can have a hustle and a drive, and a lot of people do, but without the changing of the days, it can get really easy to fall into a like, well, I get up and I work out and then I have this coffee and then I do this, and oh my God, it's 6 o'clock and now I got to be back at work. Where did the day go? And I know how people say like, oh, that's true if you have other jobs too, but like, yeah, it's something about this city. It's
There's
like a vortex.
Seasonal change to like, I remember when I first moved here, I was talking with a friend and he was like, yeah, everyone acts young because there's no season. So time like people don't like realize that time goes by. And that's why there's like, 50-year-old
men in fucking Ed Hardy shirts.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great way of explaining it. Yeah. And I'm like you too. If you spend enough time in a bar or restaurant as a source of income, you're like, it took me, like, I used to work at a comedy club. It took me a very long time to go back there after I didn't work there anymore. Cause I was like, no, that was the source of so much stress and pain.
I am traumatized from it.
Literally. Yeah. And I was like, I don't want to fucking see those people again. Fuck you. Like, that took a while. Okay, great. So you would tell her, come out here, visit first.
Plant some seeds.
Okay. Would you still tell her to move?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, great. Well, folks, we hope you enjoyed your apps. We're going to move on to the entrees after a quick break. I've built in breaks for commercial money.
Nice.
I'll let you know when that happens. We've only been on the air for 4 years. It's fine. It's coming. Hold our breath. We are back. Now it's time for the entrees. Okay, Liz. So I always ask the questions in the same order, same questions. Feel free to tell stories. What was your first job ever where the government was like taking taxes out? Now you can say jobs that were like babysitting or whatever if you did that when you were like 12, as most of us in the Midwest did. But if your first job was a proper tax collected job, what was that?
My first job was definitely babysitting, but I worked at an Italian restaurant that was like family owned in the neighborhood called Avanti Cafe, which is like still one of my favorites. And they have the best bow tie vodka like I've ever had in my life, to where it's become like the staple for family parties. Like we get a tray of bow tie vodka and like my mom will freeze it. We get the sauce and freeze the sauce to eat late. Like it's so good. My mom, my aunts, everyone's like, they must put crack in the sauce. Like it's so good. I don't know what Tony and Kate do, but they are incredible.
Okay.
I technically was not paying taxes on that job because they paid me
under the
table.
We love those. Shout out to Avanti Cafe. That we love those jobs.
Yeah, I got $25 a shift before tips, and then it was usually just like, it was counter service, but then I would, bring everything out to the tables and, bust the tables and do all the fun side work, like mixing salad dressing and in a paint jug, like a Home Depot paint jug thing, and filling a lot of sauces and wrapping wrapping like the seafood salad that was so oily and had the little octopuses like tentacles and getting all oily but I loved it.
How old were you when you had that job?
Like 15, 16,
you were a baby.
17. Yeah.
Okay. Is there a reason that it was advantageous for them to keep you off the books? Like, did it work out for both of you that you were off the books, or were they just trying to do you a solid?
I think it worked out for everybody if I was off the books.
Okay.
Yeah. They were like small, family owned.
They can't have a payroll, so they don't want employee. I get it.
Yeah. The owner, Tony, would like open his wallet on Thursday and hand me like $75 for my 3 shifts. And I had taken home like my tips that night. So like they would count the cash and be like, all right, here you go. And I'd be like, phew.
That's big. That's stripper money when you're a teenager. That's still a lot of money anyway, because you can make a decent amount if you're turn and burn, even if it's counter service. But especially as a teenager, were you like able to like buy a car and do all kinds of cool shit with that money, or were you just spending it?
Eventually I bought a car. Well, my parents were like, if you want to, because all my friends had like, most of my friends have summer birthdays, and I'm September. So it's like I'm almost a year older than a lot of them. So I could have gotten my driver's license sooner, but my parents were like, if you want to take driver's ed, you have to get a job so you can pay for the car insurance before you can take it.
You got good parents.
So I do.
They're really, it instills discipline.
Yeah.
God bless.
And so, I would work like Tuesday, Thursdays, and Fridays at Avanti Cafe, and I would make my money. And then when it was time to buy a car, when I was 17, I had saved up like $3,500, and my parents matched it. And so I bought
them. Yeah. Those are good parents.
But they also were happy that they didn't have to,
drive you to work anymore. Yeah, I get that. What'd you get for $7,000?
I got a used Jeep Liberty.
Oh, Jeep Liberty. Jeeps are good.
Cute little black Jeep Liberty.
They are so cute. Mm-hmm. Oh, that's awesome. Okay. And how good did that feel? Because you paid for it yourself. That must have felt
it was
like
great.
This is probably your favorite car ever. That would be
it
my
was.
experience. Yeah,
I had it for like 10 years.
Holy
it was like
shit.
a 2003, I think. And I had it till I was like 27. Yeah.
Damn. Okay. So that was your first job. Mm-hmm. So you did that 15, 16, 17. So you graduated high school and then you got rid of that job. Okay. Were they sad when you left? Did they do that whole like, oh, we're going to throw you a party and that kind of thing?
They didn't throw me a party, but I would come back like I went to Iowa for a year for undergrad, and anytime I'd come home, like I'd pop in and visit, and they'd be like, "Oh, Liz," and to this day, I still like last time I was home, which was like March or April when I was home for like a decent chunk of time. You know, I went in and said hi, and they had small children when I worked there in high school, and now those kids are like in their early 20s, and I'm like, oh my God, how is time going by so fast?
Pull the parachute. Oh, that's great. Okay.
But they always love seeing me, and like very special. There's a picture of me in like, you know, my prom dress standing with Joey and Mauro, and like they have it framed on the wall by the bathroom.
Yeah. That's really cute.
Yeah.
How many customer service jobs have you had total?
Oh gosh. I worked at Avanti. I worked at American Junkie, Benchmark. I'm naming all these Chicago places.
Yeah, I'm like,
most of them are closed.
American Junkie.
Fremont, Parlor. There's little odds and ends. Like, there's a club in Chicago called Joy District. I worked there for like 2 shifts, and I was like, oh, absolutely not.
Gonna have to hear that story. Okay. All right. And that's, let's see. So we're up to 6.
And then my current one.
7.
Gosh, I know there's... Oh, Public House.
Oh.
Barcelona. Oh, okay.
Oh.
Yeah.
Public House. I got questions. Keep going. Barcelona. Okay. So we've got 9 jobs so far.
I think that... I might think of more, but I feel like that's pretty much...
Okay. So we're rounding it at 9. Okay. I want to know about why you only worked 2 shifts at Joy District.
Okay. So... I'm not going to say his name because he's, I think, still an owner of it, but he's a comedian, and he's pretty removed from, and this is in Chicago.
Okay.
He's pretty removed from like the actual day-to-day stuff that goes on there. He's just like an owner of this bar group that owns multiple locations.
He just makes money.
Yeah.
Good for him. Okay.
And this place, he was like, oh, you should work at my club. And I was like, okay, great. Went in, had like a half-assed interview, and they're like, yeah, what days do you want to work? And I was like, these days. And they're like, okay, great. I came in to train, and it was like no one knew what was going on. I don't know who the manager was. They were like, okay, so, you know, we're going to come out with a new menu. So just like order things off the menu so you can like see what things look like. And I was like, I should get some sort of training for this. No.
That's insane.
Totally insane. I worked a Tuesday night. No one knew like how long I was going to be training for.
Come on.
I was like, so how late am I am I working a whole shift? Should I like, nobody knew. At 11 o'clock, the girls changed into like, I hate this phenomenon where they'll try to put bottle service girls, cocktail waitresses, bartenders in like sexy lingerie underpants. And then they'll have them wear like Nike fly knit gym shoes with it. Like, I'm just like, this is disgusting.
Yeah.
I feel like this woman is running out of a bad situation, and she grabbed the first shoes she could find.
Oh, I didn't even think about that, Liz. That's so sad.
Yeah.
That visual is so specific. God.
Yeah. So these girls are just wearing these like camel toe shorts and like lingerie with like one-piece teddy lingerie things and gym shoes. And I'm like, who's this for? It was in River North, which is like a pop-in area, you know, downtown. And no one knew. It was just like the communication was so bad that I was like, okay, so what are the happy hour deals? And they were like, oh, yeah, I don't know. And I was like, how long have you worked here? Like,
it feels like a front for something. That feels like they're running drugs out of the back, and so they have to pretend like they know what they're doing.
Right. Well, it was like Fridays and Saturdays. It's like a club upstairs with like, you know, bottle service for like $500 for a bottle of Tito's.
Sure.
And there's always a line to get in. So people are like paying to, you know, get in, sit at these tables, be seen, which like, that's another thing where I'm like, this is so fucking disgusting.
Yeah.
Like just that mindset of like, ugh.
I can't get down with it either.
And so during the week, it was like the food that they had didn't really matter. The money that they made during the week didn't matter. Like if things didn't get rang in, whatever.
Because
someone's paying $1,000 for a bottle of Grey Goose.
Yeah.
You're
clearing $500,000 in the month, and it's not because of the fucking, I don't know, fried ravioli or whatever.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's wild. So you were meant to be a server.
No, I was bartending there.
Oh, you were bartending, but during the day. So you weren't bartending when it was a club, or you were supposed to be?
It was... I didn't even make it. I literally went to the one training shift and I came back for a second training shift. And I think I like halfway through, I was like, okay, so will you just text me there was like a miscommunication where we both just like went our separate ways. And I was like, I'm never stepping foot in there again. That place is disgusting.
You just knew.
Yeah.
That stuff, I always wonder, it's like how I feel about the shops that are on Melrose that charge like $6,000 for a pair of jeans. I'm like, literally no one is coming in here for that. All the shit's faded. It's been in the sun for 100 years. And you're like, you ain't selling jeans here though, right? Like this is something else, because you've been here longer than I've been alive. And like, I don't know. I like places like that. I've worked at a couple places where I'm like, I think I'm supporting an illegal operation of some kind.
Like, I just hope it's not human trafficking.
That part. Yeah. Everyone's in sneakers. I don't understand. Are they trying to leave? Yeah, that's
quick getaway.
Yeah, that yikes. Okay. So you had 9 Joy District. Okay. What's American Junkie? Is that like a clothing shop? It feels like a clothing shop.
No, it's actually, and I worked at Hollister for like 2 weeks.
Oh god, you had 10. Okay, good. I got it.
And that was literally, they came up to me and my friend at the mall and they're like, do you guys want to be models at Hollister? You know,
because they were owned by Abercrombie. Abercrombie would do that same shit.
Yeah,
and you're like,
okay,
yeah.
And then I worked like 2 shifts at the register and I was like, this is fun. I like using a register. And then like I worked 2 shifts, you know, folding clothes and like giving people a fitting room thing, and I was like, "Oh, this is not for me.
This is hell. This is hell."
I was like, "Absolutely, I would never want to work in retail again."
No,
I was like, I will clean up gross ketchup off of tables before I fold a teeny tiny little tank top.
Why is that so relatable? The refolding would make me want to eat a gun, but I can clean up someone's puke. I don't understand. Like, what is it? There's no logic.
Yeah.
Okay, so what is American Junkie though? Is that
American Junkie is I think it's like a franchise.
Okay.
Because they have one in Scottsdale. They had one. There's randomly one in like Cabo.
Okay.
And then they had opened one in Chicago in River North. And that was, it was like 2 rich bros who one of their dads was an investor and they had a few $1 million to fuck around. And they put a giant retractable roof, you know, that cost $1 million on this like 2-story club place.
Yeah, because the weather's always so good in Chicago.
Right,
that makes total sense for that location.
And they were like, you know, when famous people come in and they want to, we have a $100,000 bottle of Ace of Spades champagne to drop down in a helicopter through the roof.
Liz, you are lying.
I swear to God. I swear to God. And even in the training, I'm like,
that ain't it.
Who do they think's gonna come by? Like, this is Chicago. Like, the famous people that are here, I mean, like athletes, but like the Chicago Bulls are not coming in to drop $100,000 for something
for a helicopter to drop off their booze.
Yeah,
no.
And I'm like, I couldn't think of a single actor in that moment, but I was like, no one's coming here.
Yeah. And even if they are, who's dropping $100K?
Yeah.
Like, you just what? So it was a club.
It was a club, and they had a very confusing concept where
what tech bros with just daddy's money weren't really thinking A to Z. They just had some weird ideas.
I know, shocking.
I pause for shock. Okay, so they
that was like a downstairs restaurant, upstairs club. The girls who worked upstairs all were blonde with huge fake boobs. Obviously. I was a downstairs girl, brunette with no tits, and
Liz, you're gorgeous, but you're not a blonde.
I am not a blonde with big boobs, that's for sure. And that was actually, so I worked, if I can back up a second, the first bar job I ever had was at a bar called Barcelona in Wrigleyville in Chicago.
Wrigleyville would probably be a nightmare to work in, but I love Wrigleyville. Did you make so much money?
I made, for the time, I made so much money.
Yeah.
And that was another, like, I didn't get paid hourly. Everything was off the books.
Of course, because that's run by the mob. Wrigleyville, every piece of property there is run by the mob.
Yeah,
I am convinced.
I worked for, like, this gay guy and this woman, this Thai woman who was married to a Chicago police officer. So he couldn't be tied to anything. So everything was in her name.
Ma'am.
Everything was so illegal. It was disgusting. But we'd go in and work, opening day for the Cubs. It's like, I was walking with like $600, no problem.
No question.
For, you know,
under the table. 600 under the table dollars.
Unclaimed. And that's like, at the time when I made like $300 on like a Saturday night, I was like, oh, this is a good Saturday night. Because it was in, I don't even know what year it was. I was 20. They hired me underage.
But ma'am, they were just like middle finger to the city of Chicago. Like, we got a cop on the books. Don't even worry about it. We're going to do whatever we want. People sleep on how fucking scary and dangerous Chicago is. People joke about the shootings and stuff, but in people's minds, they separate the like sexy green river in the middle of the city from the horrific like danger that it is to live there. When you said River North, I'm like, ooh, I know about a lot of murders that happen in River North.
There are,
This is not a safe area. It's so wait, I have to understand how you're finding out about all of these weird, like the job, the Avanti Cafe makes sense because it was near to your house, of course, and they knew you grew up there, whatever. But like all of these kind of like probably fronts for other things. How are you finding out about all these jobs?
So I went to Iowa for a year, came home, was going to community college. I was looking to get a bar job. All my friends who went to DePaul or like city schools, they would go out at this place called Grand Central in Lincoln Park that didn't card underage girls. People would walk in with like water bottles of vodka. Like they would just wanted cute young girls at their place. They would look at your fake ID and be like, okay, go on. I think at one point they had like Jello wrestling. It was like really, really bad. And I went in with my resume and I was like, oh, I worked in restaurants. I'd like a serving job. And they said, we can't hire you because you're not 21, but go to Barcelona. They'll hire you there. And so I did. And they were like, okay, yeah, what days do you want to work? Like, we'll do.
You're like, I'm not 21. They're like, right. What days do you want to work?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And they're like, yeah, you don't have to be 21 to serve alcohol in the city of Chicago. You only have to be 18, which I don't even know if that's a rule or a law.
That may be accurate, actually, because I was bartending before I was 21 in Ohio. I think there's a loophole. You can't drink there, but you can serve it. Which, come on, you're drinking there. Are you joking? Oh, I'm going to abstain.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I was serving at this place, and I mean, it was the kind of place where we would all get up and dance on the bar. It was like Coyote Ugly vibes, but like not Coyote Ugly, but it was just like fun,
a Spanish
trashy.
theme.
Those were like my big drinking days where like, you know,
especially in Wrigleyville shit.
Oh, yeah.
You can't do that sober.
Everyone was just like
out of their
fucked
mind.
up all the time.
All the time. Today, it's still like that. That's good for them. So you find out about this because of word of mouth is how you find Barcelona. How do you find the Joy District? Like, was it just like word of mouth too?
That was Joy District was like the guy who I knew through comedy who was like,
got it. You said
come
that.
work for me. And that was like, I had been in the industry long enough that I was like 1.5 shifts. And I was like, yeah, this is not.
This ain't it. Okay.
But American Junkie, there was like I love when a restaurant calls it a casting call.
Please kill yourselves. Fucking, I can't think of the name of it. The Abbey in West Hollywood. They do that. And you have to bring headshots and you got to line up around the block starting at 5 a.m. because everyone wants to, shut up.
Yeah.
Shut up. What is so special about this place? It's not a casting call.
Yeah.
It's cleaning up other people's barf and feeding them poison. Please stop.
Yeah, exactly.
I hate that too. Ugh.
So there was, so Public House was like the first like real restaurant I worked at. So while I was at Barcelona, I also went and applied they had like open interview kind of things. So I went in, started serving there. And that was like a legit restaurant.
It's corporate, right? I feel like it's a chain.
They own, it's not a chain, but they own, the bar group is called Dynamic. And they own probably like 10 places in Chicago of like different, they own a lot of places. There are a lot of places called Public House.
That's why I think I'm getting them confused. And I thought they were in the same lane as Yard House, like with the totally different.
Very different. Yeah.
Okay.
But they were the first people to have like beer taps like connected to the table.
That's cool.
It was like really cool for the time, especially. So the server would have like a card and they would like swipe it on a thing, like a tap to pay before it was even a thing. And it would turn on, and the table, there was like a little thing that would read like how much beer. So you had to like show the table how to pour beer, or else they could just get foam and you're paying for the foam. And that was really cool. Like it went by the ounces. And
would people tip well because they were serving their own beers?
Yeah, because it was still, I mean, people wouldn't come just to drink. People would like get
eat
dinner
the
there.
food.
And the
Oh.
food was good. So like that was the first time I worked in a restaurant where I had like a 4-shift training
Yeah,
of
it's
like
corporate, yeah.
going through every single thing on the item, what the allergies are, what can you change, what can't you change, shadowing in the kitchen for 2 whole shifts where you're like watching the salad guy make the same 6 salads over and over and over.
Yep.
Trying all the cocktails, trying all the beer. They had like 100 beers on tap. Like it was like intense.
Legit. Did
Yeah.
you like that job?
I did. The money was really good, and I worked. So there was a point in my life. So then I went to a different college for like a semester. Decided not to do that. I went to art school. While I was in art school, I would go to school Monday through Thursday. Thursday night, I'd go work at Barcelona. Friday, I'd work lunches at Public House. Friday night, bartend at Barcelona. Because at this point, I'm 21, so they let me bartend there. Because that's where they started to have
morals.
Yeah. Saturday, I would work brunch at Public House. Nighttime till 3 a.m. at Barcelona. Sunday, I worked brunch, Public House, so like 10 to 6. And then I'd have Sunday nights off, and I'd go hard on Sunday nights because I was
Obviously.
like, this is
my
only
one night
time.
off.
Yeah.
Sure.
And then I'd go back to school on Monday. And I was doing that for like 2.5 years.
Girl, don't you miss that energy? Like, I don't miss that life where I was never sleeping, but I kind of miss the energy of like, I can do this.
Yeah, I don't know what I was.
You're
I'm
like,
like,
no.
why didn't I take care of myself during those?
Because you don't. Like,
Yeah.
I loved cigarettes at that time. I thought those were a good solution for things. I'm like, I look back, I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Whatever. That's amazing. Okay, so you did that for a while. What made you leave Public House then?
That's a good question. I don't remember.
Nothing dramatic though. It was
No,
just- it
nothing
just sort of
dramatic. I
ended.
think we just like went our separate ways. And I think that's when I interviewed at American Junkie.
Okay.
And they let me bartend. So
You got to make those
bartending
moves.
at a place in
Yeah.
River North was,
Oh, you make crazy
that's
stripper money.
the
goal.
hierarchy of,
Yeah.
Socializing
All of Chicago. Okay. What was your favorite of all the jobs you've mentioned so far? Which was your favorite?
Public House, the money was good, but it was my first look at like very intimidating like servers and bartenders, people who were like hot stuff. And I was like, oh gosh, these people are all like so attractive and so like intimidating and whatever. And they'd kind of like bully you into like being like, I'll just take that table. And it's like, oh, well, no, the host said that's my section. It's like, no, I'm taking it. Like that kind of thing.
I hate that shit. I've worked at places like that too. Like, you're fucking with my money.
Yeah. And at that time in my life, I'm like, oh, okay, no problem. Yeah. And, now I'm like, back the fuck off.
Yeah.
This is no, I don't take other people's sections or
No,
anything,
but
but
you're
like,
to protect your table. It's your money.
But I did like Public House because it was like, it was easy. It was very straightforward. Barcelona was fun. That was like, yeah, it was fun.
So you would say like maybe Public House and Barcelona kind of tie for
Yeah.
favorites? Okay.
Yeah.
Because we're taking your current job off the table. We're not discussing that. Okay.
Yeah.
Least favorite of all of these. I mean, you can't say Joy District because we know you only worked there for 2 shifts and obviously
Yeah.
you were like, this ain't it. So the jobs you actually like worked.
So I would say the place I worked the longest in Chicago is a pizza place called Parlor.
Parlor. Did we count that? Was that one of the, did you, oh, you did mention it. Yep,
Yeah.
You did. Okay.
And Parlor is another, like, the training was very intense. You can sub out this, you can't sub out that. This is how things go. The owner's a crazy man who's just like micromanages and very over the top. And then the GM was he's like this 5'8", very scary man who's like, I don't know how he's so intimidating, but like, I don't think I've ever seen him smile. And he's just like scary. He just had this like effect where he'd be like, I compare it to like an abusive relationship, and I've never been in like an abusive relationship where I've, thank God, but like they would take advantage of us. They would like not give us any leeway on anything. And then they'd come to you and be like, hey, we really need a good bartender to work a double today. Do you think you could do that for me?
That's so manipulative.
So manipulative. And it'd be like, yeah, okay. And they're like, I'll buy you dinner. Thank you. Like, this really means a lot. And then the next day it's like back to being like,
Assholes.
I'm getting written up because I'm wearing the wrong tank top.
It's the abuse that is sustained and allowed in restaurants is wild. Like it's the only time when I don't know if you're watching The Bear. I just got into it, so now all references relate to that. But when Ao's character in the first season like quits and after being like abusively spoken to, spoiler alert, I guess, if you haven't seen season 1 from 5 years ago, but anyway, and I thought that was the only moment that took me out of the show, because I was like, no, if you're working in this kind of kitchen, you've been abused for so long.
Yeah.
That it's like, why was that moment any different? I recognize it's the writing for the show, and the rest of it is so realistic to restaurants. I'm not dragging the show. I love the show. But that was the only moment where I was like, no, they manipulate and abuse you constantly. She's been here for 5 minutes and quit. Like, then she hasn't worked in restaurants ever.
Girl, you don't have a backbone, or you have a backbone. You should not work in a kitchen.
No. Like, whatever. Anyway, okay, so you were like, there's no leeway there, and this is at the Pizza Parlor House, but you lasted there for how many years?
I was there for like 5 years.
So how did you tolerate being abused like that?
The money was
them?
so good.
Why? It's pizza.
It's popular. It was like it was a cool spot to work. I remember when they opened, I got hired there when they opened, but it's in the West Loop. I was living in like Wrigleyville, and I was like, oh, this is so far.
Yeah.
Fast forward, I'm in LA, and I'm like, oh yeah, I can drive 40 minutes to Van Nuys for, whatever.
For 5 minutes of comedy.
Yeah, exactly. But, at the time I was like, I didn't have a car at the time, or my car was like at my parents' house for a bit. So I was like, oh, that's a really frustrating public or like transit commute.
Yeah.
And I don't want to pay for Ubers, like coming home from work late at night. So I decided to like turn it down. And then I ended up, I don't remember how I started working there. But a couple years later, I like went, and I mean, the money was so good. And we had another big difference between LA and Chicago is like, because Chicago has the seasons, summer in Chicago, working at a place with a patio.
Oh, you make stupid.
Everyone is like, this is the only chance I'll get to sit on a patio this year. I'm staying here for 5 hours. Here's all of my money. I'm ringing up a tab. I'm going to like live this life.
Yeah.
And we had a rooftop. That was very cool. And we had a huge patio outside, and the bartender. So we'd have on the roof, if you were like working up there was 2 bartenders and a bar back, and the bar was in a shipping container.
That's cool.
It was very cool. And we just had like an awning that kind of like, it was like a big metal plate, but it would like lift up, and there wasn't a lot of, there was sometimes like people just like approaching, because we had to, because we had one person did service and the other person did savages, and that was like the customers. And it was, you're making drinks and everything was in plastic. It had to be in plastic because we were on the roof. So you're making like old fashions in like a 9-ounce little plastic cup. They're like sticking together because it's so hot. And it was like 10 degrees hotter in this shipping container.
Sure, because the sun's beating down on it. Oh my
it was
gosh.
a hot box. And we're up there and everything's sticky. There was no room for like mats to step on. So you had to be like extra careful of like
not falling,
sliding around. Yeah.
Holy shit.
But I mean, we'd go up there and sometimes you're like, oh, I just made $500 for a 5-hour shift. That was pretty nice.
That's
like just
wild.
like a quick
in and out.
Yeah.
That's $100 an hour.
Yeah.
That's more than nurses make.
Yeah.
That's stripper money. That's wild.
And
that's hard to walk away from. So it's your least favorite, but was it the most lucrative of all of the jobs?
No. Oh my God. Did I mention Fremont?
Yes, you did.
Okay.
You
Fremont was the most lucrative.
Why?
And that is, so American Junkie closed down and reopened as Fremont under different ownership.
So you were working for American Junkie whilst it closed?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was only open for 2 years, and I was there day 1 and the last day we closed.
Okay.
And then during that time, I went to Benchmark, which is in Old Town. Very fun, like sports bar. Made a lot of really good friends there. We had a lot of flexibility. We were able to drink on the job as long as we like asked to take shots. Very fun. That bar company bought the American Junkie building in River North and opened it as, surprise, a restaurant/club.
What?
Yes. And so I was there. I was like a head bartender training the other bartenders for the opening of Fremont. And it was very exclusive, very fancy. We had these like, on the menu, there was like these like platters, this concept of like platters. So there was like I don't even remember. One was like a T-bone steak, and they were like $90 like platters that come out, and you like, there's like 6 sauces, and you can eat it, make a little chimichurri and tacos, or you can eat it like this. And there was like 3 of those. And so the food was really good when we opened, and the upstairs club was like very fun. They had a stage, they had like live DJs and stuff. And we were one of the first places in Chicago to really do like club brunch.
God in heaven, girl. I want to put my head in an oven.
I would work Friday nights, close at like 2 a.m., get there Saturdays at 9 a.m., work like an 18-hour double.
No, ma'am.
So I'd get out at 3 a.m.
Girl, you got to be doing coke.
And
this is
Sunday,
insane. That's insane.
I've never done coke at work, you know?
Good job, you.
Yeah. Sunday we'd be back at 9 a.m. We open at 10, and I'd work till like 6. But I was making $1,000 every Saturday.
Good damn.
We would work because it was...
You could work 4 Saturdays in the month, and that's all you'd have to work, and everything would be covered.
Yeah.
You're walking with $1,000. Mm-hmm. Oh, I would have done it for that too.
It started off, and it was so popular. And at first it started off and it was like fancy and fun, and it got so ratchet by the end because people would just like... Because 10 to 2 was bottomless mimosas.
Please, everyone stop doing that. That is
nobody needs a bottomless mimosa.
No one. And it's a goddamn nightmare to work. I don't know anyone that's ever had to work that. Anywhere that has a bottomless mimosa place that doesn't have a story of someone who barfing.
Yeah.
Every single person I know has
barfing.
That.
There'd be like... Yeah, there was always like a daytime DJ. So people were getting crazy. People would do bottle service on top of their bottomless mimosas. And at 2 o'clock... At like 1:30, you know, the servers would go around and be like, hey, bottomless mimosas are ending soon. I can give you like one more round. People would try to like steal the bottles of Prosecco to put them on their tables. Sure. We were like, sorry, we can't do any bottles on the tables. You have to get it poured. And they'd be like, well, we're still waiting on our, you know, server. And they could get them filled at the bar. So everyone would just bum rush the bar, waving their plastic flutes in our face. And it's like, I can only pour as fast as this can come out of here.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what else you want me to do.
I'm not an octopus. There are not 75 bottles I'm hoarding.
Right. And so we're doing that. And then people were like, okay, 10 shots tequila, 3 vodka sodas, blah, blah, blah. And then people are like drinking. So then it's like a Saturday night when you're like
starting at 2 p.m.
Yeah.
No, ma'am. No,
until about 5. And then it would start to like simmer down. And then it was like one person just starts putting in tips. And they are just doing tips for like that last hour, and then we kind of like clean up. There's always someone cleaning up puke. There's like dirty underpants hanging on a bathroom stall. It's like girls in heels are falling down the stairs. Like it was...
Can you explain to non-industry people what you meant by putting in tips and why that took a whole person to do it?
Like every time you sign your receipt that says, you know, like $10 tip on these 2 drinks or 3 drinks, whatever, you sign it. I have to go to the computer and I have stacks of these receipts. And I have to go and find the check, put in the tip number, enter, and then put it off to the side. And it takes forever. So you can do it pretty fast, but
it's the missing piece for people who are used to like handhelds now. I hate handhelds. I think
hate
it's
them
terrible.
too.
I think it's ruining customer service. It's a whole thing I could yell about forever. But those are automatically put in, but those are usually with pooled houses so that the management can skim off the top. Don't tell me they're not. I know they are. But otherwise, if it's a paper receipt, what you're saying is someone wrote $10 in, so then you find it on the computer, you enter the 10. So that is its own timeline of and normally in a slower environment that's not a club,
you can do it as you go along. Yeah.
Yeah, no problem.
I feel like it's easier. Most of the time it's easier for servers to do it because they can, you know, your table closed out, put it in right away, or you have 5 seconds of downtime, do your 4. But because the bar is so high volume and such a quick turnover, it's like you're grabbing 10 off the bar, they're soaking wet, you know, you're grabbing them, sticking them behind you in a cup somewhere, and then later you have to go through. And so that last like hour was just like clean up, reset
for the night crew.
Yeah, but because I worked doubles, most of us would work doubles just because we were like
making drug money.
Yeah. And we would also, I had to drink when I was working these shifts because I was like, there's no way I can get through this sober.
People are so annoying.
I was going to jump over the bar and like kill someone. I was sure of it. I was like, I'm going to murder a person in this building before this place closes.
Somebody give me a drink right now.
Yeah. So we're like ripping shots back there. I am shockingly good at like
being half crocked.
Yeah. Which is like now I'm like, I don't know how I drank so much and was able to do my job so well, but that's just part of it, you know?
Yeah.
And then me and my coworker, we would do like 2 bartenders at each bar. We would do our money, split our money, say we made like, $600-$700 for brunch. Each. We would go to the bar down the street, Snickers, rip a shot there, go somewhere, get like a quick bite, come back to work, change into like our,
Night
black outfits for work or for nighttime, just like skimpy little dress or like a black button down, whatever. We'd like rip another shot, and then at like 8-9 o'clock it would fill up upstairs, and then you're doing the whole thing over again. But this was like a shorter, it's only like 10 to 2, 10 to 3, whatever.
But you've just been on your feet for the fucking Christ. That's so much work.
But I'd get home and I'd be like, oh, that was $1,000. Like this is my rent and more in a single day.
That's wild. That money will make you keep going. It's a real motivator.
I mean, I was thinking about it the other day, and there's a lot of aspects that I'm like, I don't know if it's Chicago versus LA, pre-pandemic, post-pandemic, everything going cashless, Toast, like everyone doing handhelds,
Yes.
I don't know if it's because every single place you go to buy anything now asks for a tip. So
every
people
single place
are so
accustomed to it and bitter.
Yeah, and it's like, why should I give my server? No, I tip my coffee person $1. I tip this person $1. I'm going to tip you $1.
Yep.
And so I don't know if that's what's hurting it, but
they call it tipping fatigue. That's a real thing.
Yeah.
That's a real thing.
But it's like...
But you were saying the difference between LA and Chicago as far as financials go. Is that what you were going to say?
Financials, yeah. That just like I forgot the point of it.
Because we were saying that like working like that's like stripper money. It'll keep you...
Yes. That the time that I worked in restaurants in my 20s before moving to LA, I put $20,000 away.
And that's on top of being kind of irresponsible, going to a bar,
and that's when I was going out drinking.
And tipping, you over tip when you make that kind of money.
Tip $100 because
you know them and they're good to you. And you were able to fucking put away $20K. Yeah. That's a lot of money. Yeah. That's a good chunk of savings. And it's funny because like you are trading your time during that period, but it like weirdly set you up to be able to do the career you want to be doing. I mean, you went through the money already, but like does...
a lot of the money actually is in the stock market right now.
Okay, girl.
Yeah.
Look at you, financial badass.
Because I had like $20,000 in my savings in my bank, and my dad was like, I don't know if that's where you want to keep your money. Maybe invest some of it. And then... I wish I had like a financial advisor. Instead, I just like asked my dad's friend, and I was like, what should I do with my money? So I have like some mutual funds. I have a little bit here and there. I have, it's in the stock market, and I'm not going to touch it for a long time because I also like don't have a retirement fund.
Hello.
Or health insurance or anything like that.
All the good shit y'all get from your corporate jobs.
Yeah.
Okay. So you worked, I'm going to go back to, okay. So least favorite though, you said was Parlor Pizza Place.
Yeah.
Which is the place you were describing working in the shipping container.
Yeah.
What was it that made it so bad? Just the volume of people and the hours and the people running it being condescending as if those are not enough reasons?
The owners, it was, that was the place where when I started doing comedy, I was working there and I'd be like, ooh, I have this show where I'm not going to get paid, or I can work my Friday night shift and make $300-$400. And I was like, I don't know if it's worth it. And then it got to the point where I was like, okay, I'm performing at the Laugh Factory. This is like, one of the first times I'm doing this. This is a big deal for me, for my comedy. I'm going to take the Friday night off and go perform there.
And then they punished you for a month.
Yeah. Then I wouldn't get Fridays for like the next 3 weeks, 4 weeks, whatever.
So fucking stupid. Get over yourselves. It's not a cult. Like,
yeah.
It's just,
Then I had a lot. That was like, I was finding my comedic voice, and also just like, why am I taking these jobs so seriously? Like, all I'm doing is pouring beer for people. All I'm doing is making cocktails. None of this fucking matters. So then I'd kind of like
check out a little bit.
Yeah. And just be like, tell people, there was a time where I had worked like a Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It was like a holiday weekend, worked that Monday, and then I was working that following Tuesday. So it was like a slow Tuesday after a holiday weekend. This guy sits down and he just like needs attention, and was just like, I put a menu down in front of him, and he's like, what do you have on tap? And I said, well, everything with a check mark is what we're currently pouring. I have bottles and cans, blah, blah, blah. If you look on the back, blah, 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 it goes by what kind of beer it is. Like, it could not have been more self-explanatory. I'm like, what are you looking for? Number 7 is always the wheat beer. Number 8 is always the IPA, whatever. Like, just use the thing.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, what do you like? Or what do you have that's good? And I told him, I was like, I don't know. Why don't you open your eyes and read the menu in your hand?
You said the thing we think to say.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Because I just finally snapped. And then I was like, oh, fuck, I shouldn't have said that. But it was like, it was too late, whatever. And then my coworker served him. He also didn't even get a beer. He got a fucking cocktail. And I was like, dude.
That was just a game.
Yeah. And so I
Was he pissed though?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I went to go clear his plates out of the way, and he's like, did I do something to offend you? And I was like, no. I was like, I'm sorry. It's been a long weekend. And he goes, doesn't matter. He goes, you're a bartender and your attitude sucks. And he was like, close my tab. So I closed out his tab and I put it down. I'm sorry. He has to close out. And then I put it down. I go, sorry, it's been a long weekend. He's like, doesn't matter. You're a bartender and your attitude sucks. And I was like, fair.
You're like, it does, actually. I don't want to be here. So
I was like, do you want to trade spots? You can try this. And he got up and he threw the pen. He got up and left. And he told my manager, who was just like a floor manager at the time, who was like
angling to get higher up.
He sucked. His name is Tim. He's like a big fat Winnie the Pooh. He kind of talks like this, and like the stapler guy from Office Space. But he's like, Liz, you're cut. And I was like,
they took you off the floor for that?
Yeah. And I go, okay, well, am I cut? I was like, well, Courtney was here before me, so do you want to break her out and let her eat? Or like, he's like, I don't know. Go ask Patrick. Patrick was like the director of operations who was like sitting in the back. And I was like, I'm in trouble. I'm not going to go ask Patrick if Courtney can go eat. Like, that's your job.
Yeah.
You figure out what the logistics are.
If you're firing me, fine. Yeah. But like, yeah.
And so I had to go to the back. I went into the office with like him and the other manager. And they're like, Liz, do you know why you're getting in trouble? And I was like, yeah, I told that guy to open his eyes and read the menu in his hand. And they're like, we're actually more concerned that you don't know how to sell beer. And I was like,
that is not what I thought you were going to say. What?
And I'm like, I know how to sell beer. I was like, what do you usually like? What are you looking for? Oh, you want something light? Okay, I have an Allagash White, or I have this wheat. That's our rotating, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like showing them, and I'm like, I know how to sell beer. And they're like, okay, well, we do have to write you up. And I'm like, that's fine. And I was like, honestly, the fact that I'm not losing my job right now is insane.
Shocking.
So I was like, good. Well, I'm going to keep telling people to open their eyes and read the fucking menu because
you'd had it.
Yeah.
How far in were you? Was this like towards?
I had worked there for a few years.
Yeah. Okay.
And then I got written up for like, we had also the difference between like when I was 20 working in Barcelona and Wrigleyville, I was wearing skanky little dresses. And because one of the owners was like a big gay man, he was like,
show more.
Show it.
Yeah.
Give me more.
It sells.
Whatever.
Yeah.
And it's like, you're impressionable. You're like young. I'm like, okay, yeah. Oh, everyone else here is wearing sexy little dresses. Okay, I guess I'll wear my sexy little dress. And like now I'm like, oh, I don't even want to clock in to be objectified. I'm like,
bless that sentence. Yes.
I'm like, and now I work at a bar in West Hollywood. I'll say that. And we have a big gay clientele and a lot of female clientele. So it's like, I don't feel as objectified, but there are still, gross men that come in everywhere. But I'm just like, we have to wear white linen shirts, which is crazy because they get disgusting.
So fucking stupid.
I wear my like biggest shirts with like jeans that are disgusting. And I'm like, I put my hair up in a bun and I'm like, nobody fucking look at me.
Yeah.
Like I do not, there's times, like days when you're just like, I want to crawl into the cooler. Nobody make eye contact with me. Mm-hmm. Do not look at my body. Do not look at my face.
Ugh. That's from trauma, girl. That's a residual trauma.
And when I started working at Parlor, we had to wear these shirts. On the front, it said Parlor. And on the back, at the bottom, it said, try my pie. And it's like, we just wore them. And then I was like, I don't want to wear this shirt that says, I was like, people keep making comments. I don't feel comfortable wearing this. And so eventually they like stopped handing
requiring that you wear a sexually objectifying uniform that they provided. Fuck you.
Yeah, I was like, I'm trading in my shirt.
Good for you, girl.
Yeah.
Good for you. You made such a good point, and I feel like I hate making it gendered, but it's just the reality of being a female in the service industry. Like, guys hear this and us beating this drum of objectification as if it's just this sort of like, I don't know, nothing burger, as they say. Like, it's just, it doesn't matter, but it's like, it actually gets into your brain. It actually affects like how you behave in the world, and it eventually leads you to the type of interaction that you had with that guy, who, it's unfortunate he was on the receiving end, because yeah, he wanted to interact, he wanted some attention, okay, like I can see his feelings were hurt, and that's a bummer, but it's also like he caught the residual of the 5,000 predecessors that looked exactly like him and behaved exactly like him, but also sexually objectified you. It's just like, I don't know. I don't know what the solution is. And like, working in customer service, I think there's just this understanding of like, well, it's just going to happen. And it's like, okay, I guess. But like, do men say that? Do they say like, oh, it's just going to happen. It's just whatever. It's like, I don't know. I don't know what the solution is. And some people sign up for it. And I don't know, you can make good money if you show your ass. So like, whatever. But like, if I'm going to do sex work, or if I'm going to be a stripper, or if I'm going to do something where the actual like financial exchange is a direct result of my body being involved, I still get to complain. There are still ways to be harassed in those jobs, and there's still lines that can get crossed. But like, I maybe get it a little more if you made some comments.
Yeah.
But like, you're just, I don't know, like, you didn't work at Hooters. Like, right. I don't know. I'm going off. I see why you reached a limit that you were like, yeah, this guy's going to catch these hands. If I don't say
and
this thing.
there was another time there that this guy, he ordered like a Tito's and Red Bull, and you pour the Red Bull and then you like keep it there until someone orders another Red Bull, and it was flat by the time I served this guy his drink, and he was like, this is flat. And I was like, okay. And so I took like someone else's open Red Bull and like poured that one. And he's like, I want a new fresh Red Bull. And I was like, okay. And it was a whole back and forth thing. And he was just a fucking asshole. Mm-hmm. And so I had to like, they were like really big on like ring everything in, even if it's a comp, a spill, whatever. There's places where you're like, everything will even out. This was like, everything needs to be accounted for. So I ring it in. My GM had to like come over and like, I was like, this guy is giving me such a hard time about his vodka Red Bull. And he was like, who the fuck still drinks vodka Red Bull? And I was like, my thoughts exactly. But after this interaction, I'm like flustered, I'm frustrated. And then this like old man, this group of like 5 or 6 people, he's like, we want these shots and blah, blah, blah. And like, give us, that's my biggest, of my biggest is people were like, I'll have, we'll take, give me. And it's like, how about a fucking manner?
Please. The word please is so available. It's right there. Available. You could just say it.
And this guy was like, 6 Jaeger bombs or something, which another like, it's like, what are you
20?
Yeah.
Like,
and he's like, but hey, and I'm like, I heard you. And he goes, but I want you to do it with a smile.
Oh, I would have lit the bar on fire.
I threw the bottle of it, or I like slammed it down.
Good.
And I like told one of I was like, someone else has to serve that guy. I'm going to fucking kill him. And I ran to the bathroom and I screamed.
Good.
For like 30 seconds.
Good. Do it with a, why is that so irritating? I don't know why. It's reductive.
Yeah.
And it's like,
it's so yucky.
It's when I like working with really strong male, like advocate bartenders as coworkers who hear shit like that. And there's not even a second for my meter to get to a 10 because they're at a 10 and they go get in the guy's face. I'm like, this is really enjoyable. Like, that's when I really like the masculine of like, I'm gonna let you handle that.
Yeah.
And you see that was dog shit, right? Like,
yeah, that is my favorite thing about my current job is we actually have me and 2 other female bartenders right now, which is the most women we've ever had behind the bar in my 2.5 years of working there, because it's a lot of men. And that's another thing, like Chicago and LA, I've always worked with predominantly female bartenders. And now it's
really?
like, yeah.
Oh, out here it's mostly dudes.
And out here I'm like, oh, there's one other girl bartender.
Yeah, that's wild.
And so working with so many guys behind the bar, especially in, you know, a gay neighborhood, like, and it's not just gay guys, it's like women love these guys, men want to be these guys, or they also want, you know, it's just like, and they put it on and they button their shirts down low and they're like objectifying themselves, and I'm like, yes,
Good, fine, do it. Yeah.
and I usually work the service well, and I keep my head down, and I just make drinks really fast, and I only have to interact with the servers, and I'm like, this is what I prefer.
Yeah.
And when I have to, if there's a day where I like have to talk to people, it takes, I have to mentally pump myself up, and I'm like, oh, okay, just be nice to people, just be nice, like you don't even have to, like, just be nice, Liz.
You're in the mirror like, you can do this. You can do this.
I'm like, just smile before you approach someone.
It helps. It'll change the energy. You got it. What is the weirdest thing you've been asked to do whilst on the clock?
By a customer or by a...
Both.
That's a good question.
If you're afraid you're going to get in trouble, we can skip it.
I don't know that I have an answer.
Okay. It's okay. All right. What is an incident that made them ask to speak with your manager besides the guy that you told to use his eyeballs?
It's like, I know I've gotten in trouble plenty of times. Trying to think if I ever...
Like, was there ever a moment in real time where they were like, go get your manager?
I've never gotten a go get your manager, but I have had... I feel like the instances where that's happened, I say... Do you want me to go get my manager?
Yeah,
like I will beat them to it, especially the place I'm at now. Like if two of the three managers are working, which one of them is usually working, I know they're going to have my back, and I'm like,
oh, good.
I'm like, do you want me to go get my manager? And then, you know, we all go back and laugh about it because we're like, this guy really had an issue with this. Like, you know, they're like, oh yeah, we'll talk to them, and it's like, fuck off, dude, you suck.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. Okay. Have you ever told a customer to fuck off or in polite ways other than use your eyeballs and read the menu? Like, do you have a nice canned way that you're like, instead of showing your temper, you're like, oh, I can, as a female, I can destroy you, but I'm going to say it like this.
I feel like I've had something happen yesterday at work, and I can't remember what it was. Oh, that was that familiar feeling of being like, absolutely not. Is this woman, she was drinking a cocktail that my coworker had made for her, which like, it wasn't an obvious cocktail. It was like in a wine glass with like mint and cucumber and ice. And I was like, this could be a number of things because it's nothing that's on our menu. And then my coworker was gone, and he got cut. And she's like, can I get another one? And I go, yeah, what were you having? And she goes, I don't know. The other bartender made it for me. And I go, okay, well, what did you tell him to make? And she's like, I don't know. He just made it. And I was like, okay. And there was like a sip left in it. And she's like, here, do you want to try it and see if you can figure it out? And I go, absolutely not.
Never.
Like, no, I don't want your backwash.
No.
That's disgusting.
Also, you just drank it. What does it taste like, asshole? What do you mean? Like, I don't know. My taste buds don't work. Then I'll make you anything. What a psycho.
She's like, it's got like tequila and like mint and like bubbles. And I was like, okay, I'm sure I can figure this out.
Did you make her whatever it was?
It was close enough. Like I was like, is that? I was like, how is that? And she's like, was in a conversation with this creepy guy at the bar, and I was like, okay, well,
you can handle that.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I don't always ask this, but has a Yelp review ever had an effect on your job or employment?
Not on mine. I did get a positive Yelp review once, and that was at Fremont when we started the club brunch. This like guy and girl came and sat down, and it was like buffet style brunch, so you had to like go all the way downstairs and like get the food and then come back up. And like this couple was like, wow, you're so great, blah, blah, blah. This is, and I was like, oh, thanks. And then at some point someone showed me and they were like, oh, you got mentioned in a Yelp review that you made their day and they had so much fun. And I was like, oh my God, amazing.
That's great.
Yeah. I also had a guy. Oh, also I worked at a place called Kirkwood, which falls under like the same umbrella of Benchmark and Fremont. And I ran a mic there for a bit, and I would just fill in. And that's probably when I was like the meanest to people, because it was pre-pandemic / post-pandemic. It was an Indiana bar. So it was like drunk college kids.
Yeah.
They had a patio. So when it was nice out, we'd get slammed. And these like children are watching college basketball. And they would, if people didn't tip, and I worked with my best friend Eric at the time, and like was friends with the GM, and just it was not my job this was not my only job. So it was like, oh, I really don't care. And I would call out people. I would pick up a receipt off the bar, and if it had a $0 tip, I'd be like, so it like John Jacobson, and he'd be like, yeah, and I go, where's my fucking tip, dude? And I would, and people would get intimidated and like start throwing money at us, because I was like,
hell yeah.
I was like, really, you're not gonna fucking tip? I was like, good luck getting another drink, asshole.
Good
and
for
I would,
you, Liz.
yeah, it was,
You had it.
yeah.
Good for you.
And that was
it.
what I thought was going to be my last bartending job, because I was like, fuck you, fuck you. I'm out. You're cool. I'm out.
Man, that feels like such a power move though, and you think it's it, and you're like,
Yeah.
I don't have to go back to the. Oh, bless you. Okay.
Yeah.
Do you tip?
Oh yeah.
How much?
Oof. At least 25%.
Yeah.
It's so, and it sucks in this day and age to like, it's like,
Do you think we're getting asked to tip too much? You sort of alluded to that earlier.
I've actually calmed down on my tipping quite a bit. Like,
Because you have to.
yeah.
Because
Like,
everyone's
I can't afford
asking.
to
Right.
tip you 50%.
Yeah.
And actually my mom loves being like, oh, my daughter's in the industry, which in Chicago is just the service industry.
Yeah.
Out here, it's like, well, what?
Which what?
Entertainment, right? And my mom like will be out to lunch. I used to also was making such good money. I would take my mom out to lunch like every other week.
Bless
and we would,
you.
You know, and she'd be like, oh, now it's an inside joke with my family that my mom's like, she's in the industry. And the servers are, and I'm like, oh my God, Mom, you're so embarrassing. And the servers are like, my mom does the same thing. Or like, yeah, my family, like, okay. Or they're like,
Neat.
cool.
Do you want more ranch, or are we done?
Yeah.
What is
yeah.
this?
And so I'm like, Mom, now I have to like tip them like 50%. Like,
Yeah,
ugh.
to prove it.
Yeah.
Do you ever not tip?
No. I mean, for the things that like ask for tips, and I did something the other day, and they spun around the iPad, and I was like, I'm not tipping you for this.
I bought olive oil at a farmer's market where I physically walked to the shelf. I put it in my paws. I walked it over and handed it to them. They didn't even touch it. They opened the bag. So from my paws went the olive oil, and then I grabbed the fucking bag. And there was a tip option, and there wasn't a you can skip this option. It was like, you will be tipping. And I was like, for what? For what? Did you fucking put the olives in the bottle? Because then
Yeah.
we'll have a conversation. You're just a salesperson.
Yeah.
Oh,
I remember what it was. I was at the airport, and my friend who was watching tuna asked me to get her a bag of Garrett's popcorn, saw the little kiosk, went up, and I was like, hey, just this. He goes, great, $8. Hands me the thing, and I was like, absolutely, I'm not tipping you for this.
No, you did the whole
not do
thing.
anything.
It's insane, and I'm also not convinced that they get it. But would you ever not tip if someone were like rude to you, or you had like a shitty interaction with someone?
I don't think in my soul I could do it.
Yeah, I can't
And
either.
in that on that same trip, I had a layover at the Atlanta airport, and the only thing in my terminal was like a TGI Fridays. And I got sassy attitude from the server there, and my tab was like $36 for like a burger and a glass of wine. It was a fat glass of wine though. I was like,
Okay.
you know, and I was like, $8.
Yeah.
I was like, I rounded up to 40, 20% of that, $8. I was like, I'm never not gonna tip someone who's serving me.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel you.
Like the service would have to be so atrocious. They would have had to like spit in my face.
Yeah, call you outside of your name. Yeah. And final question in this section, can you describe the worst customer interaction you've had, unless you already have and you can reference what you've already told us, or an archetype of who the worst customer is or would be?
That's such a good question, and I feel like I could go on for days talking about it. But I think specifically to the job I'm at now, because everyone's like
Rich.
And loves throwing money around. It's people just like exceptionalism, and like people who think they're the only people in the bar. They demand all your attention. They're like, well, I'm better than everyone. I don't know why I'm not getting, you know? And it's a lot of I don't know why this is such a stereotype, but like women who have a lot of plastic surgery where it's like hard to look at their faces. I'm like, I'm sorry, I can't give you good service because I can't look you in the eye because you're scary looking. They're not necessarily bad, but sometimes, a lot of times they are. And yeah, I feel like in Chicago it was very like finance bros.
Finance bros.
And out here it's like
producers.
People who are like, do you know who I am? And I'm like, absolutely not.
And I don't care, even if I did. If I did know who you were, you'd probably be nice.
Yeah.
You're bitter because nobody does.
Yeah.
I agree with that. Okay, well, we're going to move on to the good stuff. We hope you saved room for dessert. What was the nicest thing a customer has done for you whilst you were working? Or what is, I guess?
There was when I was at, I don't remember if it was Fremont or American Junkie. I think it was Fremont. A guy came and sat down on like a Thursday and was chatting him up just a little bit. And he was in town for business, and he was weird, but he was very nice. And he came back that either Saturday or Sunday, and he brought me a dozen Stan's donuts.
Oh my
gosh. He's like, because we had briefly talked about donuts, and he's like, here, like share them with your coworkers. Like, and I was like, that was so sweet. I was like, thank you. This like made my week. That
Lovely.
was so generous. And they're not cheap. And they're like,
yeah. I've said this before on the show, but it bears repeating. It's the thing that they thought about you outside of the context of a bartending experience. So like you're a fully realized person in their head. They're not like, oh, I got to get my bartender this thing. It's like, oh, she mentioned donuts. It's like you were a thought of theirs outside of the bar. They physically went, they took time out of their day. It's like, it's kind on a lot of levels, because like a generous tip is kind. That's really kind.
Yeah.
But like physically going to get something and bringing it in, like that's, and not just a donut, enough for you to share. Like,
yeah. And of course I went back and I was in the stairwell,
Yeah. Fuck my coworkers. I'm eating all 12 of these.
Well, I took a bite of every single one.
Yeah, you did. Obviously.
And then my manager, Gabe, came back and he's like, oh, you ate a bite out of all of them? And I was like, well, they were technically for me. So yeah, I did.
You can have my backwash donut. That's lovely. What's the best tip you've ever gotten that you can remember? Like a single tip, not a total night tip.
Yeah. I think I can't remember any. I don't remember any like specific ones, but I love when I see a $100 in the tip line.
Yeah.
That's just like, it's like, oh, it's like there's something complete about it.
Yeah. That's a great way of saying it. And that's happened to you more than once, obviously.
Yeah.
Damn, good for you. Okay. And what's the best lesson you've personally learned from working in customer service?
You have to leave it there.
Girl, I wish I could.
And it took me years. And now like running a show where I have to relive these things, it's like, I'll write it in my phone so I remember it later, but it's like, I cannot bring this home, or I can't believe it took me this long to mention it in this episode. But one of the things that got me started in comedy is I would come home from working in restaurants and stuff, and I would tell my mom these stories, and I'd be like, and this dumb fucking bitch walks up to me, and blah, blah, and my mom's like, oh my God. And I'm like, and I said, no, bitch, fuck you. And my mom's like, you did not say that. And I'm like, well, no, I didn't, but I wanted to. And my mom would get such a kick out of it. Both my parents were like, oh my gosh. My mom would say, oh, you got to do this on stage. And I was like, no one wants to watch me bitch about working in restaurants. Everyone works in restaurants. Like, it's not special. And then fast forward, I like started doing stand-up a little bit here and there. And then I met John Ledley, who runs Bitch and Purge in Chicago. And I was like, this is what I've been waiting for. And I was like, I hate when people do this. I hate when people do that. And it's like, every single time I do the show, I'm like, okay, I'll tell this story. I'll tell this story. I'll tell this story. And I
rarely get to the third one.
I don't even get to the second one. Yeah. I'm like, I get on my rants and then I go and
it's an endless well. But your suggestion is leave it there.
Leave it there.
Okay.
Write it down for a story for later, but like, do not take home other people's yuck that they've put on you.
Oh, they're yuck. That's right. Let them keep it. That's a great lesson. Final question. What's one piece of advice you would give to customers who interact with customer service workers of any kind?
I would say like, think about if you're a server, if you're whatever, like that's someone's mom. Like think about like your mom in that position. Like if someone was talking to your mother that way and you could, your wife, your husband, your partner, your daughter,
Hello.
like You know how they'll be like, oh, that's someone's daughter up there. Like when they talk about like strippers or something, it's like that's someone's daughter you're screaming at right now.
That part.
That's someone's mom you just fucking objectified. That's someone's boyfriend that you told to go fuck themselves and then didn't tip them because you have a feeling about it or you have an opinion or they didn't do everything exactly the way you like. You're trying to show them something. It's like, this guy's just showing up to work.
That's it. Came to his job.
Yeah.
That's great. Okay, well, Liz, this was lovely. How can people get in touch with you? Where can they see you? Tell us how people can find you.
I post pretty much everything on Instagram, and that's just at Liz Zagone, Lizagone. And I don't post on Twitter anymore. I don't even go on it, but my handle is Jiz Zamboni, which I just...
It's a good handle.
I just like saying it.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Okay. And any shows coming up that people in LA can see you in?
I'm hosting in the Lab at the Improv on August 15th.
Wow, good for you.
Thank
That's
you.
awesome. What's the name of that show? Or is it just the Lab? Is it just
It's
their
just
show?
the Lab.
Oh, got it. Okay.
I don't actually know the name. And I am at the Stowaway downtown on September 1st.
Nice. Okay, well, folks, get your tickets. And we're going to drop your checks now. Thank you so much for listening. If you want to help us out here at Service from Hell, we'd love to have you subscribe, rate, and or review the show wherever you listen. It will help us reach more people that need to be schooled in the art of being kind and will be catharsis for those of us still working in the industry. If you want to get in touch with us here directly, send us your receipts to servicefromhellpodcast@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you. Remember, if you can't afford to tip, you can't afford to go out. So don't be garbage and be good to people. It's easier that way. Thanks for being on, Liz.
Thanks
this
for
was
having
so
me.
fun. All right, folks, we'll see you next week. Good night.